So we're going to do something a little different this week, something that we haven't done before. A while back, actually on our second episode, we discussed a topic called replayables, and that was within the realm of video games. And what we were getting at is that all of us who are gamers out there, especially longtime gamers, we've played games, throughout all the years. I'm talking about going back to Nintendo, Sega, PC, whatever your program was. And we all have those handful of games that just stood out. They were different for us. For some reason, those games they stuck with us then, and they still mean a lot to us now. We can still play them, we can still enjoy them. And back on episode 2, we called those games replayables. We got into what makes a game replayable for us. What makes those games stay with us for whatever reason. It was a very memorable episode for myself and my guest that day, my man Craig Darrow. And it must have been memorable for many of you out there because we got some tremendous feedback from that particular episode. I really appreciate you guys for taking the time to do that. You know that. And one of the things that we kept seeing was a request to do more of a deep dive for us to kind of go into other replayable games, from our perspective. What those, what that means to us and why are those games, again, replayable in our minds. So you know what? Me and today's guest, we took on that challenge and it was fun. This is my guy right here, man. He's been supporting me and this podcast since day one. So welcome to Champions Material, my man, DA, Daniel Adams. What's going on, man? Welcome, brother. Glad to have you.
Hey, man. How's it going? Thanks for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Absolutely, man. Happy to have you. So before we get started, let's go ahead and highlight these topics and then let's get into it.
Let's
So,
go.
again, replayables. We're going to give you our picks. We're going to give, you all out there a little background on some other replayables that we chose and why we chose those games specifically. And then our next topic is you remind me. So like, what if any games that we've played before or since remind us of the games that we're choosing for today's podcast as a replayable? Why is it that game, even though, again, if we played games that were similar to our games that we're picking, what is it about that specific game that truly stands out above the rest as far as being our replayable? And then and now. So on a recent episode of Champions Material, myself and my man Ben, we gave you our thoughts on what we're looking forward to with next gen and these new consoles. So we want to get Daniel's thoughts on, how he sees this as we get closer to launch with the next generation of consoles, gaming, and experiences. So let's go ahead and get this thing started, man. Before we even get into, our replayables that we're picking for this episode, DA, myself and my man Craig, we gave you our definition of what makes a game replayable. Let the people out there know what are some of the things that makes a game replayable to you.
Um, what makes it a game replayable to me is just something that you can always come back to, and it just triggers that nostalgic feeling in your brain, like in your body, like you can just feel it in your bones. That's the type of game that I consider replayable. And there's many games that I feel like have been like that, but the one I picked today is definitely one that stuck with me and definitely shaped a lot of my opinions about games since, especially in the genre that it's in. But yeah, I think it's, like it's a type of game that you could literally go back when you're 80 years old and it feels like you're a kid again. That's the type of thing I would feel like a replayable game is, especially
Absolutely.
our definition.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And again, it seems like a common theme. Craig talked about a game that for him, gave him, long lasting memories. And some of those games, and one of his games that he picked was Mario Kart. That's something that not only gave him those experiences and those memories, but something that he can pass along to his kids. And he, enjoys seeing them play it. So it's sort of that transference where it's memories that can last not only individually, but they can last from generation to generation. One of the things that I've discussed as far as my definition of a replayable was whether it's the story, whether it's the gameplay, the level, whatever it is, it
Mhm.
has to stand out and it has to grab me. And I talked about on that episode that I have a 4 hour rule, 4 hours, where if the game was on my radar, you know what I mean, as I heard about it and, prior to release, if the game is on my radar, I'm going to give it 4 hours regardless. Because to me, within 4 hours, I should. I mean, if we're keeping it real, there's some games that takes minutes,
Oh
but
yeah.
4 hours is more than enough time for
I mean, that's fair.
You see what I'm saying?
That's a fair
So
shot.
no doubt. So for me, like 4 hours, I should know within 4 hours if the game doesn't grab me, I'm out. I may come back to it down the line if and when I have time. But for example, Ghost of Tsushima, and I think I talked about this on Replayables, the Volume One. I knew within 5 minutes within that opening cutscene, I'm like, you know what?
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm busy, but I'm making time for
Oh,
this.
yeah.
And I don't, regardless of genre, and we all have our favorite genres. I think we both are fans of if it's a great game, it's a great game
Mhm.
regardless of genre. So for me, a
Definitely.
replayable is something that grabs me. For you, as you mentioned, it's just a game that you can come back to, whether it's for not just nostalgia reasons, but for gameplay reasons. Like even years after the fact, the game
Mhm.
can still grab you like it did back then. So good stuff, man. So you know what, the people out there, and I appreciate you all again your feedback in general, but specifically for the replayables episode at the top of the season. We got a lot of feedback. People submitted their replayables.
Mm,
Yeah, man.
that's
And
fun.
yeah, so I got and I got games that were going like across all genres, all systems. I got
Wow.
had an individual. She said for her Gears of War 2. She was
Oh.
she
Hmm.
said yep. She said she will stand by that game. You know what I
Okay,
mean?
interesting.
She's like, come for me. She was like, that's my replayable, my number one game of all time. I
That's
had
funny.
another individual. He had mentioned Kingdom Hearts 2.
Oh, well.
You know what I'm saying? Well,
I can
exactly.
feel that. Yeah, I feel that.
Exactly.
I understand.
And I had somebody actually, they threw out a PS2 game called Winback, which was sort of, I was like, wait,
I have no idea what that is.
I
Wow.
actually played that back in the day, man. It was
Oh,
a third person, kind of like a shooter. Imagine GoldenEye, but just more aggressive in third
okay.
person, right? It was
So that was
called Winback.
some early shooter.
Early, man. Yeah. So
Oh,
Winback picked that up, but that was his jam. So it was good to get that, those feedback, get that feedback and those responses. But along with that, there were people that were asking, like, hey, throw out some other examples. Like, I really enjoyed that episode. So um, I'm gonna kick it to you, man, because it's your first time, letting the audience know about a game for you that you consider to be a replayable. So let the people know what that game is and why is it a replayable for you.
okay. So it took me a little bit of time to figure out what I would want to pick for my type of game or my replayable because I do enjoy a breadth of game types and but I believe like the one that's always really stuck out to me would be rhythm games.
Mm,
And one of the first rhythm games that has ever really grabbed me was my replayable, or is my replayable because I've been playing it recently too. But Amplitude for PS2, it's
ooh,
just a really it really introduced me to the whole ability of a game to have that rhythm aspect. And like I already had like somewhat of a musical background, like interest wise. It really just it pulled me in, and like I just was very taken off guard by the way they were able to like break apart the songs into the different tracks, and like the music still sounded good. Now that might have been a little bit of rose tinted glasses because playing it now, it doesn't. That
yeah,
part of that doesn't really hold up as much, but like I'll keep it in the nostalgic glasses because that's where I like it the most. The gameplay itself is still like stellar. It doesn't look so great on a 4K TV, but you make do. First world problems, right? um, but yeah, that's definitely what I would choose as my replayable because it definitely put me on the path of other games that I may have not ever been on my radar because I've been like, what's this rhythm thing? I don't know if I'm into that, but I gave it a chance, fell in love, and it was history.
wow, that's what's up, man. And yeah, Amplitude. I actually remember that. That was definitely way back in the day. PS2.
Oh yeah.
So what specifically about that game? Because again, I don't know. Was that the game that introduced you to like rhythm based games? Was it something that you had played previous to that?
No, yeah, I'd never played anything. I actually played the previous game they had before that after Amplitude because I found it on a demo disc and I was like, wow, they definitely upgraded this game a lot. But yeah, like I had never played a rhythm game before that. I mean, honestly, I mean, I mostly played like sports and wrestling games back then
Right.
before I kind of like broke out and started playing just about anything. Started taking chances. Plus, I was a kid. I couldn't afford a lot of things. And I believe back in the day, Amplitude was actually only like $40 when it came out. So that was like a $10 less than the other PS2 games. So I was like, oh, that's a steal. Once I knew what it was about, because I played it at someone else's house, and then I went to EB Games, rest in peace.
Wow.
And
Yeah,
they only had one
software
copy. Mhm.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
remember.
I guess they're still in other countries, but yeah, they're not here anymore. Rest in peace. Rest in peace. But yeah, ever since then, yeah, I've been really into rhythm games, and it always comes back to that that original PS2 game that I still have.
Wow. So let me ask you this though, because you had said before that for the most part you were playing, wrestling games, sports games. And I understand, I think games back then were 50, 49.99. So, you saw a bit of a discount, but I don't think that was the main, there had to have been something else when you saw it that even though you haven't necessarily played games like that before, was it something about that where you said, you know what, beyond the fact that it's a little cheaper, I like what I'm seeing as I'm looking at this case and I really want to try it. Like what grabbed you about it before you played it when you hadn't necessarily played games like that previously?
Well, when I went to go buy it, I'm pretty sure I'd already played it at
That's what
someone
you had
else's
mentioned.
house.
Yeah, okay.
I played it at someone else's house, I believe, because I know it was kind of a big deal in our town, like for people to like try to outdo each other's scores right when it first came out. And I had no idea. Like I went to like someone's house and they were playing it, and I was like, "What's this?" And they passed the
Mhm.
controller, and then I was like, "Oh," I was like, "Maybe I'll go try to find this game." And like they didn't have it at the GameStop, and then I went down the mall to the EB Games, and they were like, "Oh, like somewhere in the back room, the shiny sealed copy of Amplitude came out." And like I didn't even know it was cheaper than the other one. That was just kind of icing on the cake, really. They were like, "Oh, $40," or I was like, "Whoa, let me race home, play this game." But yeah, I got exposed to it very lightly, and then once I bought it, it was over. Like full dive in. I believe my neighbor had it. I think that's what it was. I used to walk to my neighbor's house, and we would play it because they had co-op on it, and we would play together. And like I was just like, man, after that first week, I was like, I really need to go get this. And I finally, I was able to go and get it, and and it's still sitting here, however many years later.
Wow, so you still have it, man.
Oh yes.
If you know what, I gotta see this. If it happens to be like nearby, I don't want you to go on a scavenger hunt for it. But if you happen to like actually have it,
Oh, I'm looking at it right here. Hold
yeah,
on.
hey, do me a solid, man. Grab that, man. I want to check that out. I want the people to check that out too. Put that on the camera, bro.
Oh. Yeah, I got all my PS2 games sitting over here. I don't know if too close. I don't know. Let me move my mic a little bit. Let's
Yeah,
see.
man.
There it is.
Put it up for the people. Look at that. You got David, David Bowie, Pink.
Yeah.
Shout
Oh,
out
my
to
hand in the
Run
way.
DMC. Yo, so
Boom.
I'm just looking at the title. Yeah, that's Blink 182. Shout
Yeah.
out
This is,
to my man
whoop. I
Travis.
don't know if you
Travis
can see
Barker.
anything. It's probably really bad looking, but it's a PS2 case. Woo.
Nice.
Yeah, I love this game
Some of
so
that
much.
retro action for Champions material, man. That's what's up. Appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem.
And as I'm sitting there again, as I'm looking at that, it seems like there was a very good, like healthy variety. We're talking about genres, right? Within
Oh yeah.
gaming, it seems like there was a very good variety of genres as far as music that you can actually that came with that. Is that accurate or what?
Oh yes, it was a very wide range. Like you had everything from like your super poppy pop to like R&B hip hop to like Slipknot. Like it had
Mm,
everything on there, which the newer iteration that's where it kind of falls flat for me. Because they did make a Kickstarter Amplitude, and it didn't have as good of songs. That's kind of why I kind of default back to the original because it just had a way better soundtrack. But we won't get into all that just yet.
got you. So this is one of the cases where the remix wasn't quite as good as the original. I got you. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's other factors, but yeah, we'll get into that.
Same thing happened with me with Killer Instinct, but that's a whole
Mm.
nother conversation for a whole nother.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But no, man. And for me, I had a lot of games that have really stuck with me over the years that I love playing. And my original replayable was Killer Instinct, right? And
Mhm.
that game to me it challenged me to learn how to adjust when things don't come easily to me, especially within, what I mean, fighting games. And then I applied that to, and I talked about that on that episode. I applied that mentality over the other things I was doing, sports, and then just in general. You know what
Mhm.
I mean? Like when things don't come easy, quit coming up with reasons / excuses why, the game isn't, the game is trash or the game is this or it's flawed or whatever. And learn the game, learn how to adjust, and how you have your counter moves and everything. So I chose Killer Instinct at that time. I also spoke to God of War later in that episode. But for the purposes of this one, for me, as I was kind of going back, and I wanted to, go back retro. I didn't want to do anything that was, too recent. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Because again, for me, replayable means it stands the test of time. That's one of the things that really matters to me. Does it age well? And now I'm kind of stepping a little bit on what we'll maybe discuss a little bit later on in the episode. But watching the PlayStation showcase, the recent one that they did, where they
Mhm.
unveiled the release date and the price. Lord, we'll get into that later. I know.
Mm. Mm-mm-mm.
But one of the trailers that they showed was Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition. And they showed us Virgil, and I was done. I was like, okay, day one, cancel
Yep.
Christmas. I'm out.
Cancel.
I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm out. But
Over.
it got me thinking, as because I knew we were going to be, recording this, and I went back and got the HD. I got the DMC HD collection, Devil May Cry HD collection that came out. I got it on both PS3 and PS4. I didn't care.
Oh yeah.
Devil May Cry is one of my favorite series of all time, like period,
Worth it.
regardless of genre. It just is.
Yeah.
And I actually threw in the original Devil May Cry from the HD collection, and I gave it about again, 4 hours. So like in 2 playthroughs, I gave it like 4 hours, and it wasn't just and I talk about this like Ninja Gaiden. We've had other Prince of Persia. We've had other games that are like of the like that. But
Yeah.
the thing about it is with Dante, not since Sonic the Hedgehog had I had a character that had so much attitude that I was just like,
Mhm.
man, I like this dude, man. I like his get down. I like his flow. So it was the attitude. It was literally being ranked on how nasty of a combo you
Yeah.
pull off. And again, very similar in a sense to Killer Instinct. It wasn't like it was just you can button mash to a degree,
Yeah.
but you
So
weren't
yeah.
going far in that game if you didn't put time in the lab
Yeah.
to really master the different weapons that you got, the different combos you can do, and when it made sense to pull them off based on the sub bosses and the bosses that you were facing, right? And going back and playing it, I'm like, similar to what you were saying with Amplitude, like when you looked at it on a 4K TV, even the HD
Mhm.
collection, when I'm playing the original DMC, I'm like, yeah, this was definitely 2002 or one or whenever it came out, right? The
Yeah.
presentation that's just natural, right? You nearly 20 years later, you can't expect the game to, from a graphic, from a presentation standpoint, really be appealing to you. But everything else,
I mean,
what I
yeah, it's a
mean?
classic.
Everything else was timeless. It's classic. You said classic. It flows, man.
I
You
mean,
know,
that scene where he gets that sword, is it Alistair?
yes,
Oh my god! I mean, that's like burned in my memory. Like I saw that scene so many times with the glass falling. I mean, it's beautiful. For
it is.
PS2, it's like, what are they doing here? I'm mind blown
Yeah,
at the time, because I mean, I even have that still on physical. Like, I have that right over there on the shelf too.
nice.
Yeah, that's the only one I kept. I bought two, and we took that one to GameStop.
You
And
know
then I
what?
kind of got
So
soured.
I didn't expect you to say that you actually had that, man. And if that is right there, I got to ask you one more time, and we got to let the people see. We got to put that on the camera for Champions material, man.
Yeah, it's right
Let
here.
them know what we talking about right here.
Oh, 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 oh.
Look at that. Look at that, man. Nasty. Alistair right there in front of you as soon as you open that case. And then, of course, Ebony and Ivory. Again, we're talking about memory, right? The twin guns. You got Alistair right there. You got Ebony and Ivory. Just it, playing it again, it took me back because, again, Bloody Palace, like everything, Bloody Palace. I mean, the weapons that you get, the story, his attitude, Trish, like just that game is a classic, man. And going and playing through it outside of just the presentation, which you would expect on a game that's 20 years old and about to be three generations console wise removed, you can expect for it to not necessarily, hold up graphically, but everything else holds up perfectly, perfectly. And running back through it, it also brought back, memories too, because what was that? If that was 2001, I'm just getting ready to come up out of high school. And unfortunately for me, not to get too heavy just for a split second, but it's got to be said for context. I had just lost my mother as well. So, it was definitely a tough time where you're dealing with that. And also you're transitioning into or coming up on transitioning into adulthood and being an adult, being grown out here, right? When we're kids, we just can't wait to be, all grown up and do whatever we want. And then adulthood comes and you're like, shit, well, it was nice when I was 11 and it was just school and practice and, dinner and whatever, right? Um, but just at that time, it was just a lot that I was trying to sort through. I was trying to figure out. And when that game dropped, again, I didn't necessarily, always have money, but sometimes you do, when something really matters to you, you do what you got to do. And I remember getting that game. And I remember, see, back then, it wasn't a lot of, like, you didn't have internet and, YouTube where you just saw a lot previous to the game coming out. But they did have a trailer, right? They did have a trailer. And even back then, I think for me, it was software, etc., which was like EB, which was like what is now GameStop. I would go to that store and they had a little trailer for it on a little TV monitor, I believe. And I remember seeing that trailer and I was like, okay, first of all, this is fast. I'm like, he's got attitude. I'm like, I've never seen, because Ninja Gaiden, you move fast, but mainly it's okay, you move fast, you get here, you stop, you fight. You move fast, you get here, you stop, you fight. With that one, it was about, no, you're going to take your time and you're going to make sure instead of just trying to take the enemies out and just go on to the next thing, you're trying to like do it with some style. You're trying to throw a little flavor on there. You're trying to put a little seasoning salt on that thing, right? And I remember looking at that and I was like, okay, I'm getting this game. And, for a lot of things that I was trying to sort through at the time, that game at that time, not only was the game dope, but it meant a lot as far as like, okay, if I had some things going on, I could sit down, lock in there, get, and get the feeling like that positive energy coming from that game because I just love that game so much. Kind of flip my mode or whatever mode I may have been in before I sat down to play it. By the time I, put it down or whatever to go do what I had to do, not that it changed all the other stuff, shit I was dealing with, but it just put me in a different mind frame as I handled that. Similar to when I was a kid with Killer Instinct, right? So again, that's what I talk about especially with replayables. Now as an adult, the self awareness, the knowing who I am, and knowing like what my program is now is on a different level, right? So games for me today are more. You still get memories, but they're more about the game. It's just the enjoyment of the game. Right? But back then, when you're much younger or whatever, like those games really can have an effect as far as like where you are. Like for example, amplitude. I get the feeling that if I was to ask you, like, okay, well, at that point in time, did that game have an effect on you beyond just it being a fun game? I'm quite sure if I asked you something like that, there's something that you will have for the audience that speaks to that. We got to get you off mute, fam.
Oh, I guess I accidentally tapped it. Oops.
Boom, there you go.
But yeah, no, yeah. Basically, around that time, I was very interested in music because I was kind of like experiencing a lot of different music that I hadn't really experienced before, and it was really something that was really like reached and touched me on a different level. And then once I tried this rhythm stuff, I was like, oh, okay, there's a way to really bring music into games in a way that's not just background or whatever. And like after the fact, that kind of pushed me into like, well, I really like music. Maybe I should write music and try to do it as like a career.
Mm-hmm. All
Yeah.
right.
But yeah, so that's what kind of sparked me to like, try to join a band, which I did. And I wrote a couple albums with them. And like a lot of this, stemmed from not only Amplitude, but also, the next endeavors like Guitar Hero. And well, I guess that's pretty much it because nothing really rhythm based came out. Nothing new.
And you can maybe throw in there,
Well, yeah, Rock Band. I did play a lot of Rock Band as well. I kind of
Right.
moved on from Guitar Hero to Rock Band and never went back.
Wow.
But yeah, it definitely influenced me when I was younger to want to really pursue the music thing. Like for a long time, I really believed that that was gonna be it for me, and it could have been, but Lady Luck wasn't on our side.
Mhm.
But yeah, like it definitely it changed a lot about what I thought because like in that game, not only I mean practice does help,
Right.
but I mean it's more of like a muscle memory type thing, and like that kind of transitioned from me like I'm learning songs and then they became muscle memory as well. Like it kind of had a parallel to it. So it was kind of like a Zen thing for me. Like if I was playing that at that time, especially because I was a lot more, I guess at the time musically inclined kind of lose some of that as you get older if you stop using it, but yeah, it definitely it really fostered that whole like idea that I could really make music a thing for me to express myself and possibly a career. But music is hard.
It is. And obviously, I know firsthand you've transitioned into excelling in some other things, and we'll get into that a little bit later on. Shout
Yeah.
out to Big C. But one of the things I also want to tap into, and you just kind of indirectly led us into it, is our next topic, which is You Remind Me, right? You know,
Mhm.
and you talked about Rock Band, you talked about Guitar Hero, which definitely, were influenced, no doubt, by Amplitude. And,
Mhm.
have there been, like playing those games, or maybe any other rhythm-based games, a lot of Beat Sabers, however you want to, play this out. Have there been games that stuck with you or grabbed you quite like Amplitude? Or is Amplitude, even now, all these years later, does it still stand alone for you amongst those
Um,
games?
well, see, the only thing like I would say Beat Saber kind of just like blows everything out of the water just because you have that immersive factor.
Right.
Because there is disconnect. Like, say if I'm playing something right now and like my dog runs up and bites my ankle, like I'm gonna lose my immersion immediately. I mean, I guess the same thing would happen in VR, but of course, if you're doing that, you're not gonna have your dog around. But like, once you're in there, you become like one with the music. So I would say
Mm.
Beat Saber probably excels over that. But other than that, I don't think any other rhythm-based games really have ever hit that for me. Like Guitar Hero was fun, um, and I still kind of play it now, in the form of Clone Hero for on PC. But yeah, it's I find it fun, but it doesn't really ever hit that nostalgia feeling that I have for Amplitude. Like that still is sitting on a pedestal
Mm.
in my mind, and I don't think other than Beat Saber, like even Audica couldn't really come close. That's also a fun rhythm based game made by Harmonix, like
Mm.
and like there's just something about it that doesn't quite make it as fun. It's like it's a really good rhythm game. It's just not that fun to
Yes.
play for more than one song. Like once you play one song, you're wore out. One and two, you're just like, what was that fun? Like, I mean, I feel like I'm throwing
Yeah.
shade, but like, it's not Beat Saber. I'll just give it that. It's not Beat Saber.
Yeah. It almost sounds like, what you're saying is with Audica in particular, sometimes, and this can apply to many games, and I've experienced this many times. If you invest into it, not only just literally financially, but also like you're saying, okay, I'm going to make time for it. And then sometimes, whether you want to admit it in the moment or not, sometimes you're playing the game for the sake of completion than you are
Yeah.
for enjoyment. You know what I mean? And it sounds like, with Attica, maybe some other experiences where it was like, okay, after a while, it was more about just for completion. And because you already put your mind to giving it a shot, whereas Amplitude was clearly like, no, I can play this, several times over, many years
Mhm.
later, and still the fun factor never goes away. So,
Yep.
yeah, I feel you on that. And for me, obviously, Devil May Cry, the original, is the original, right? Since
Yeah.
then, we've had, five come out, one, two, three, four, and five. And then, of course, DMC, that was Ninja Theory, messed with that
Mhm.
one a couple years ago. People initially couldn't stand it because it wasn't what they were used to. Dante looked like a Blackstreet Boy. People,
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
yeah, you know what I mean? So people was like, that's not Dante, that's not Virgil, this is not DMC, I'm out. If you got past your bias of what you wanted it to be and what you became accustomed to, that was pretty good too. So I'm gonna throw that in there. But my original point was the reality of the situation is, for me in particular, Devil May Cry 3 is still
Mhm.
today my single favorite game of all time. Right? I've also made others along those lines, Bayonetta, as well as a few other types of games that have that speed, that style,
Mhm.
that attitude. Now, I would say Devil May Cry 3, if it's my single favorite game of all time, that would naturally mean that for me specifically today, I put it above the original. But the original was still the original, and it still holds up. So yes, I've played games since then, particularly within the linear, linearly, if that's a word, I just made it up for Devil May Cry. But the original still, stands up, still holds up. And even if you get like you got Devil May Cry 5 on the way for PS5, you're going to get a 6 eventually, and we'll see
Hmm.
how long this series goes. No matter how many they come out with or how many games of the like. Final Fantasy VII, for example, the remake that just dropped earlier this year, up
Hmm.
until Ghost of Tsushima, one of my Game of the Year contenders. Um, it has some elements of DMC. So you'll see Assassin's Creed to a degree, not necessarily with the pacing and the level design because it's more open world, but you'll see many games that have DMC influence on it. Bayonetta probably being the most prominent example.
Hmm.
But no matter what comes down the line, and no matter how gorgeous it is, and how better it is technically, Devil May Cry the original will always hold up. And for me, that's one of the main intangibles that classifies a game to be replayable, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, man, definitely wanted to just kind of just take us back. And again, thanks to you, the audience out there, for taking the time to listen and appreciate the feedback because that very similar to another recent episode, entanglement. Uh, you know what I mean? This, revisiting this as a show topic came from you all. So again, you all give me the energy, and you all provide not only just feedback, but sometimes, in at least in two cases, topic ideas. So thank you. So I wanted to, definitely, do that for you all and just for us too, because going down memory lane with classic games, replayable games, never gets old.
Hmm.
Um, but there was no way that I could, especially you. We've had our conversations throughout the years, man. We go back, and there
Hmm.
was no way that I was going to have you, DA, on Champions Material, and we not talk about what's coming up in November. You know
Oh,
what that is. So,
getting the
uh,
goosebumps, bro.
woo, it's here, man. It's just over a month out. I'm looking forward to it. We all are. Now,
Uh,
on the recent episode of Champions Material, myself and Ben, man, we broke it all down. So from the PS5 perspective, from the Xbox Series X perspective, what may or may not happen with Nintendo. I refuse to believe that they're just going to sit back and chill out and do nothing. But there was
mhm.
no way that I can get up out of Champions Material without getting just your overall take, like just where are you coming from as far as what you're looking forward to with next gen. What are your impressions on what you know? What are some of the things you would still like to know? Like just next generation gaming, go.
Okay, I want to start this off by something that I'm very highly upset about
Uh-oh.
from the reveal. I
Mm.
literally recorded myself the whole time, and the only thing that I said over and over was show me the UI, show me the trophies. I'm upset. Okay, I got it off my chest. That was whew, okay. I literally over and
You
over, show me the
interface.
UI.
Give it up. Give it
I was
up.
like, Demon Souls, I don't want to see this UI. No, but seriously, I'm super excited
Yeah.
for PS5. I mean, I already have an Xbox Series X. It's my PC, so I mean, maybe I'll get Game Pass, maybe not. But yeah, I think PlayStation 5 is gonna run away with it this generation. But I mean, I'm calling it early. But the only things that I can see that would get in the way is really the Game Pass. Like if PlayStation doesn't have a answer, I mean, I know the PlayStation Plus collection is somewhat of an answer, but like you're especially with the newest with Xbox acquiring Bethesda and ZeniMax, like we don't know how that's going to shake out. Even though that doesn't affect me personally, that does affect a lot of people that care for Skyrim or Skyrim 2 or whatever's coming, Elder
True.
Scrolls 6, and then Fallout, and then Doom. Like there's a lot of big games there, but I honestly don't think that all that equals to like all of those games. To me personally, don't even equal to one PlayStation exclusive release. Like I like one PlayStation exclusive release is like 10 times better than any of those games to me personally. But I mean, I
Mm.
might just be a bit of a fanboy. But I just really feel like the way that the PlayStation is going to go about this is really going to be a win for them, even though they might be seen as less gamer forward with the whole like we're going to charge $70 for games. And Xbox, you might get it free day one. That's the only thing that I can see deter people. But one thing that's not going to happen day one on Game Pass is Horizon Forbidden West. God of
Mm.
War Ragnarok, that's not going to be on there. You think people are going to care about Xbox when those games come out? No. I mean, I think Xbox is really trying to capitalize on like getting people to play longer experiences to keep them subscribed. And like PlayStation is, they're really about that tight experience, that full package. You're in, you're out, and you loved it. And like, I just think that's still going to be king over anything that they can really do. That's just me. I am a little upset about the size of the hard drive, but or the SSD rather. But yeah, I just don't see Xbox really, like, I feel like they're gonna go the way of Sega eventually. Like, they might have a big boom at the beginning, but I don't know. Right now I'm feeling like PlayStation's gonna take it away. But I mean, how are you feeling?
You know what, man? And before I even, I'm gonna kick it back to you just here for a moment because I know you talked about those exclusives or just games in general, right?
Mhm.
What are some of the games that you've seen revealed so far that really? You talked about, God of War. You talked about Forbidden West, Horizon Zero Dawn. Are there some other games that you've seen so far that really had you like when you saw the showcase, you went, "Holy shit, it's game time." I cannot wait to get my hands on that.
Yeah,
And
Bugsnax.
it's across all of them. Whether you saw something
Sorry,
alongside of
that was a joke.
PlayStation, Xbox. Obviously Nintendo just had their direct, and I forgot the title that they showcased. But everybody's doing a little bit of something, man. So just in general, what are the games that you're looking forward to?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, Miles Morales looks amazing.
Mm.
Like, that's gonna be crazy. Like, once we see everything on the machine with all the ray tracing and everything, and like the load speeds, like, that's one thing. That's kind of why I almost transitioned to PC, like 100% for everything that's not exclusive this gen, because like I have an SSD and I see how amazing that is. And PlayStation 5 has like an SSD that's not even on the market for like PC gamers. So it's like,
Mm.
wow, they just pulled the PC gamer right out of me. But yeah,
Mm.
that's like but yeah, for games other than that, like, I mean, Xbox doesn't really have anything that I care about. And if Nintendo's not talking Breath of the Wild 2, I don't really care right now. I mean, that's just the only, like, honestly, my Switch has sat there probably for 8 months. It hasn't been picked up.
Goodness, man. What was the 8 months? What was the last Switch game that you played that we talk about? Maybe that could be a future replayable, if nothing else, that at least grabbed you. You know what I mean for that time being.
Hmm. Hmm. Probably nothing since Octopath Traveler, and that was like 2018, maybe. I can't remember
Mm.
exactly when that was, but yeah, Octopath Traveler really pulled me in. But once it was over, I was out.
Oh yeah. And
uh,
nothing Xbox side. Like for me, they did show a trailer. And goodness gracious, it was After the Dusk or After the. It was like a Telltale style where it follows a story, and those decisions will ultimately determine what happens. I forgot what the name of that game is off the top of my head. And then obviously Forza, as
man,
always, you know what I mean, looks amazing and everything like that. So
I mean, Hellblade, maybe,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I mean, it was the first one was all right. It's not like I'm expecting the second one to be like mind blowing.
Right.
I'll play it on PC since it's probably exclusive. I mean, we know it is. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I've already played the big game they showed off for me, and that's Ori and the Will of the Wisps. I already played that, and it was amazing. But I mean, I heard it had issues on Xbox. I'm glad I played it on PC.
Right.
Because I mean, on PC, like, I think they're marketing the Xbox Series X version as having 120 FPS. I was like, I had that on PC day one. So, I mean, I know PC is way more expensive, but I'm just saying, like, I guess I'm biased because I've already played it. So like, other Xbox players are probably like, "Holy fucking shit!" Like, that's crazy. But you also have to get a new TV. So like, that's another thing that's not part of the conversation because a lot of these TVs don't support
And I'm glad you
120
brought that up.
hertz. So I'm like in that. I'm like, man, Black Friday's coming. Like, I have a Best Buy card. Let's swipe it up. It's like, but yeah, that's one thing that I'm worried about. Like, I don't want to leave any performance on the table when it comes to my visual presentation. Because if the box can do it, I'm gonna be trying to figure out the best TV bang for buck. Like, I'm not gonna go all out because that's just gonna be ridiculous. Because what, in 2 years they're gonna be like, now you need to get that 8K. now that we have content, like so I'm just
Mm,
gonna get an in between, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah,
we'll
that's
see.
the thing. A lot of people are hoping for that higher refresh rate, but a lot of the TVs are hardwired for 60 hertz. So I mean, granted, the console is going to output it, you're not going to get it.
Right.
So
Yes.
that's another thing. I don't even know if monitors have the 2.1. Sorry, I'm getting technical. But the HDMI 2.1 that's required to get these speeds, like they're going to really have to get the messaging right, so people aren't going to be upset about getting the wrong TV and stuff. But I'll stop my rambling there.
No. And trust me, that was far from rambling, man. These are things that are, we talk about the games and we talk about, you know what I mean, the systems. But you just brought up some great points that I think don't get discussed enough, and they will be discussed a lot more post launch, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
we still got some time, just over a month, give or take. But yeah, definitely clarity. We need some clarity on a few things. I want to double back to something that you mentioned previously, and um, you particularly as a PC, as a person that definitely, you dive as much into PC from gaming as you do with consoles.
Mm-hmm.
What are the main, and you talked about the SSD and there's some other factors, but one of the things that we've heard throughout the years from guys and ladies who are primarily PC players, one of the main things is the experience. Like the reality of the situation is if you invest in a PC to a certain, to a certain degree, particularly with the cards you have, among other things, monitors, the whole nine, um, you're just going to get an experience on PC that a console just cannot provide.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the current gen that we're in right now, PS4, particularly the Pro, Xbox, particularly the One X, you can. They flirt a little bit capability wise with what you could get on a PC, but again, at the same time, we're still talking apples and oranges as far as okay, PC to the max, current gen consoles to the max.
Mm-hmm.
PS5, and you talked about the SSD that's not even on the market for PC yet, and there's some other factors. PS5, Xbox Series X, we can finally, for the first time, in my opinion, have like a legitimate conversation when it comes to PC players. That's like, you know what? Yeah, I'm primarily PC. I'll probably still be PC, but now reading these specs and what's going on with these next generation consoles on the way, okay, now I can be a little bit more, I can, be a little bit more open minded. Now we can have some
Mm-hmm.
conversations. Do you think that as we progress with this next generation of consoles, that we might be able to, there might be PC players that's like, okay, you know what, now, especially if you have a console such as PlayStation where you still have console exclusives, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm spoiled by PC and I'm not going to apologize for that. And now I might look to invest in these systems because from a capability standpoint, I'm getting for the first time on consoles a similar experience. Like how do you think PC players are going to respond this console generation with what we got coming?
I mean, I think there's going to be very positive, especially with like some of the PlayStation exclusive games coming to PC. Like I mean, I hear a lot of rumors of like the strategy, like they're trying to get people to like hooked on like Horizon Zero Dawn, so that when the new game comes out, oh, can't get it anywhere but PlayStation. And it's like that's a great idea. It's a brilliant strategy. I hope they do that with more games. But I think yeah, like a lot of people, especially people that are like AMD fanatics, like they might buy one just because it has like the newest AMD technology that they can't get on their computer yet. Like fanboys might just dive in just because it has that. Like I think they call it RDNA 2. Like it's suspected to come to PC later this year, if not early next year. But like
Hmm.
it's just that secret sauce that the PC people might be drawn to, especially since I mean you're getting this SSD tech that might not even come to PC for a while. So they're like, well, maybe I should play some games here because all the benefits I was getting from PC, like ray tracing and DLSS and like the SSD load speeds and like how stuff doesn't pop in and all that, like in high frame rates, like that's the only thing that would maybe I just touched on it. The only thing that might bring people back is the fact that a lot of the exclusives have already been confirmed that will probably be 30 FPS, and I understand why. Ray
Yeah.
tracing is very expensive, even on my rig. Like if I turn on ray tracing, it goes from like over 100 FPS to like almost under 60 on some
Mm.
games. So it's expensive to run. But I mean, if they can lock that at 30 with like their exclusives and have all those effects running in like 4K, even if it's checkerboarding, it doesn't matter. Your eye sees amazing. So I think that PC gamers will be interested in it. It's just they're gonna need to see it firsthand, probably. Like And I think a lot of them will want it to be quiet. I think that's the thing I'm hearing the most from people is like, I swear, if it's not quiet, they're like, I'm gonna throw it out the window. I mean, I don't have that
You
issue
want
with
to be
my
playing
PlayStation.
your PlayStation 5, aka your jet engine, right? You don't
Yes, we don't want to be in the clouds every day. We want to be grounded. We want to
exactly.
be firmly with our feet on the ground and a controller in our hands. But yeah, that's yeah. I think that they will be interested because that's another thing. Like a lot of PCs have gotten to the point, especially if you're an enthusiast. Like even with the higher end stuff, like you have enough cooling and control over your fans that it's like quiet. You know, like if you're not playing games, you can make
Right.
it like whisper. Like I mean, mine's quiet right now, like because I have all the fans turned down. So like I think that's another thing. Like if it's quiet and it does all those things, and then some games that are multi-platform can hit that 120 hertz, and like they actually have the means to have it happen. I think they'd be interested. For how long? I don't know because I mean the graphics cards, like the new NVIDIA cards, just dropped, and
Yeah.
I think they did that strategically to undercut console. Whatever they might have got from PC kind of trickled a little bit, but the lack of availability is really gonna, I think, hamstring the whole operation throughout the holidays. So I think PlayStation will come out okay, and a lot of PC people will probably dive in. But I mean, I don't see them coming in mass. Like because PC gamers are gonna be PC gamers. But you hook them with that one game. Like if they don't release Demon Souls for PC, you might see some PC gamers buying some PS5s.
Mhm.
That's like I hear so many people crying, asking for that for PC, and like the possibility that the new one might come, they're just like beside themselves. So like if they don't do that, you might see a spike in PS5 purchases. There we go. Woo.
There you go. No, man, that's good stuff, man. No, man, there you go, man. There you have it. Good stuff right there. And I definitely wanted to get your take on it, man. And you brought up some perspectives that myself and Ben didn't necessarily cover. So, hopefully, I know I enjoyed that, and hopefully, you all in the audience did as well. So this has been great, man. And as this turned out, it was just good to kind of get that comment because I think to have a healthy appreciation of where you're going, just in general, it's good to be able to look back and
Mhm.
understand like the journey, right? And the reality is, for me, in my personal opinion, modern gaming, with all due respect to the Atari 2600, 7800, Coleco, whatever you want to bring up, modern gaming started with the original Nintendo, the most important game system of all time. It evolved,
Mhm.
obviously, Genesis, Super Nintendo. I'm not going to go down the whole line to where we are now.
I agree.
Um, yeah, man, but it was good to be able to kind of just reach back and understand that ultimately games are about experiences and memories. And, where we're going now, hopefully we can continue to do that and we can continue to have originality and innovation and not just, presentation, right? That definitely
Mhm.
matters, but it's not everything. So it was good, man, to kind of go back to where gaming was at a certain point and what it meant to us at that time and where we are potentially headed with this next generation of consoles and what it can ultimately mean in the future. So down the line. So this was great, man, and I'm glad I was able to have you on. And there is no way that we can, and I always try to do this with guests that take the time to come through. Definitely want to get the audience out there an opportunity to hear from you. As far as where you are. I know obviously, the programs you're working on, Big C among others. Just want to take a moment, man, to kind of let the audience know, what your program is and just everything that's going on well with you. So the floor is yours, my brother.
All right, thanks. Well, yeah, I mostly right now I'm doing a app development. Using a framework called Flutter. It's amazing. It's basically magic. Thanks Google. So it's just a framework where you can make Android, iOS, web, Mac, and Windows, all those types of programs, the same program, uniformly across all those from one code base. So that's the magic. Usually
Mm.
you would have to, like, oh, I'm done with my Android version, got to make an iOS version. None of that. This is probably the future of mobile app development. But yeah, so with that, I've been taking on a big project with a local business that we may have heard of on this podcast before, Big C Waffles. It's best waffles on earth. Let's go. So yeah, I'm making an order ahead system for them, kind of like your Chick-fil-A or your Starbucks app. You get to order your food and you show up and you get it and you're happy. And it's evolving. Right now, it's only on Android. We're currently in the alpha phase. We're getting the iOS version opened up soon, and as soon as that's ready, I believe we're gonna go live for everyone. But subject to change without notice. But yes, I'm currently working on that, and learning things on the side. I like to learn a lot about technology, so I'm also diving into other things. But we won't go into that. My main thing is app development, and I enjoy it a lot.
Absolutely, man, and good stuff. I'm looking forward to. I had a chance, to test the beta on the app, and I'm loving what I'm seeing so far.
Oh,
So
thank you.
people out there, man, who maybe down the line are like, okay, well, if those are the type of projects that he works on, and this guy's, knows his stuff. I may want to reach out to this individual about an idea I had. Maybe get some tips and suggestions on how they can get started if they want to go maybe down the same path one day, or if they're coming to you with an idea like, okay, well, if you're doing that for Big C waffles, right?
Mhm.
I have, this business here. I have this going on, and perhaps I would like for you to work. Where can they find you, Daniel?
Well, you could. You can find me on Instagram at Cloaked in Death. Uh,
Mm,
Maybe we can add that somewhere in the description. I'm not sure, but if you want to email me any ideas or possible project ideas, I do have an email set up for my business. But it's cloakedapps@gmail.com. That's CLOAKEDAPPS@gmail.com.
mm.
I guess rewind that if you didn't catch it. But yeah, you can send. Like if you have an idea for an app that you want to be made, I'm open to figuring stuff out for you, and we can figure it out as we go. It's usually a pretty fast process to get things going. It just depends on what you need.
Absolutely. Good stuff, man. A-list talent, top shelf development. Trust me, you heard it here first on Champions Material. Definitely want to say thanks for coming on, brother, man. We've talked about anything and everything. And one thing about you that I know that we're very similar with is, when we find something that we're passionate about, we're getting it done.
Oh,
That's our mentality, man. And we're both enough definitely gamers, fans of the gaming industry, fans of creativity and evolving. And I mentioned it a few moments ago. Gaming, in my opinion, is definitely one of those mediums that has done that. I mean, if you want, any proof of that, throw in Super Mario Brothers 3 and then
yeah.
throw in Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yeah.
Right.
Hmm.
So yeah, man, as this gaming thing continues to evolve, hopefully we continue to evolve with it, and I'm very much looking forward to where we're going, while always having an appreciation from where we came from, right? Because it's all about the experiences and memories. Hopefully, as always, my thanks to you out there, all the ladies, all the gentlemen, for taking the time to tune in. As always, any feedback you have, you know where to go. champions.materialsv@gmail.com. As always, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Also, check out the official Champions Material YouTube channel. There we post episodes. This will be an episode that we will post. There's no doubt about that. And again, everybody just continue. We're going through 2020. We'll get through it. And then again, just thanks for your time. Thanks for your support. And never forget, whoever you want to be and whatever you want to be, always be the champion of it. That's Champions Material. Stay tuned. We'll be back sooner than later with our next episode. But for now, we're done.